Hello, dear students. I would like to represent short version of the lesson on Python that we're having today. That's the first lesson, and we will start with print commands, print functions. So the usual notation is just the word print, and then we have like this curly brackets. If you are printing a string has to be printed in quotes. It doesn't matter if you use single quotes or double quotes. The result will be still the same. Hold on, it will be connected for a while. But in case you will be using, first, for example, we'll use double quotes and then we'll use single quotes, we will have an error like that. Because if you open with one type of quotes, you have to end with the same ones, like that. If you put two quotes like this, it doesn't work. It's just like 2 times single quotes. So we have to put back to double quotes. Usually in most of examples on Python, you will see that there are double quotes. So in most of online lessons or whatever, you will have double quotes. If you want to print single quote, you still can do it. Just don't forget to put it inside. So here you have a small quote. In case if you open double quotes and you want to print a double quote, it becomes a bit harder. We have to use a backslash. That's a special symbol that shows to the system that the next symbol is still a part of a string. It's not a part of a comment. Why do we use quotes for strings, quotes for characters? Because in most cases, when you're printing words, interpreters of Python still can understand about that this is a string, but in case you will use words like and, or, break, continue, and many others, this has so-called keywords. So for those words, we have special processes assigned to the interpreter, so all those parts should be printed inside the quotes. In order to print a name, that's a very simple one. You can use my name is, and then you can print Maxime. If you want to print it as one line, you have to print it as one line. Sorry, here you are. Alternatively, you can use comma here and start printing all the parts like that. We will still have the same output. So this is the first string, and we use it with another string, and by default we have a blank between two different options. So here's where you can add the second one, and if you want to add a number, you can also add a number. We can use printing in 2 lines. Here is the example, just like in case you would like to print, for example, a big poem, you just will use print several times. So with double quotes or with single quotes. In this case, we have the same output at both numbers 12, but here 12 is a string and here 12 is a number. So in case you will put something like 12 times 12 here and 12 times 12 here, as these are numbers, they will have an operation, and the second one will be 144. This is widely used when you would like to print an example saying, for example, what is the average temperature in Switzerland during last week. So you will put here the temperature during the previous days was like this, and this one, and the temperature and the middle temperature is that one. In this case, the first part will be mostly text, and the second one will be a comment. So if you want to say print something like calculating the area of a cube, the volume of a cube, not the area of the cube, you will use something like this. The side of the cube is 7 meters. and the volume is, so you can still print like 7 times 7 equal, and in this case you can still calculate, but it's easier to write it like this, 7 times 7. And here you have the whole line. So the first part is a string, the second part is a number. After the number you can print anything you want again, like for example if you want to put comma, if you want to put a dot, it will be a dot. But here is the problem that we have. In most cases we will have a blank here. By default the blank is a part, a separator part inside the code. So here is another example of how we can do with it, how we can deal with it. You can print everything inside one line and use special symbols like \n. It stands for a new line. So that's something that was used in old school typing machines. New line, tabulation, or R will return to the previous line. And you see that here we started to type something and now we return back. As it is Python interpreter, it just doesn't show you the first part. If it was the old school typing machine, we would have be typing just one after another. It was widely used when we had a necessity to write, for example, uppercase and lowercase letters together, like some beautiful letters. So we were returning back to the previous position. We're typing a letter with two letters, or some special letters like the one probably you saw many times, like this. So this was typing with letter E, and then we were adding accent graph and accent aigu and all this stuff later once we finished the line. So here's \n gives you a chance to skip a line and start from the next one. So you can type everything together. If you want to have a more nicer way of, for example, something similar to tables, you can use \t, which stands for tab. And in case you want to print any special symbols like quotes, you can also use \. If you also would like to print a \, you have to print it just twice and you will have one. In case you will have it 3 times, you will have it 2 times, because all the symbols that will be going after the first \, will be counted as a usual line. So here we have several times t, and you can see that there is a nice stairway that you can create like that. And this is quite important when you want to output your data in the form of something similar to a table, saying, for example, if you want to print out population, countries, and that everything will be in rows and columns, you can use \t and \n once you want to finish a line. So combination of \n and \t are important. So if you will add another \t, here you will see that the line is going next. This is widely used when you want to put, for the first line, what we are doing now is just changing a bit the structure. You will see that all these parts are printed with a small space here, and this space is equal to anything else. And let's imagine that we skipped to line number 11. So we'll have 11 letter here. And still, even though there are 3 symbols, the next part of a table will start from the same space. In case you will have, of course, a long list, it may cause a problem, because now the first part will be a bit bigger, so there will be no space for a t, so it will just use another t. It may happen sometimes, just be very attentive in terms of tabulation. In most cases, it's just changed by adding two different tabulations to a system, and for the first, it's t. We will discuss how we can find out those cases if there will be something bigger with the help of Python. Just a small idea, we can count the number of symbols which is in this line. In case we will see that the number is 8 or more, like here, so we have to use double T in all previous cases, which is less than 8. Okay, here is the examples of different prints that we can use. So say you have a problem where you have to calculate the number of tickets that can be bought for the money you have. So you have two conditions. First one is the price of a ticket. The second one is the value of the money you have. So one is divided by another, saying, for example, there is 10 euros you have and 4 euros is the price of a ticket. So you divide 10 by 4 and you can buy 2 tickets. And 2 euros will still be at your disposal. So all those parts can be added together. Yes, so Monty Python is 43 years old. What is important and what we can add next is AND part of the code. It's here, and separator part of the code. AND stands for the symbols that will be in the very end of a line. Sometimes you may not know how many different symbols you will have, but you are sure that the end of the sentence will be comma or exclamation mark, for example, or percent. So you're not sure about the end result, but you can do ending with a dot. As well, you can use different separators inside the code. So by default, it equals to blank. So let's delete for a while this part of the code. And you will see that there is just a blank, something which is by default. And if we add hyphen, for example, all those words will be separated in a hyphen. And if you add \t, so between every part of the code, you will have \t, which is quite good for, again, tabulation of words. In case, for example, in the homework, you have a problem where you have to place 3 countries and their population right now and a year ago, so this \t and separator will be really useful to you. We're going now to printing of numbers. There are two main numbers inside Python. One is integer. So integers is a number that you can count, like for example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, or -1, -2, -3. So we can count, for example, number of planets in solar system, or we can count number of apples that you bought in the store, but it's hard to count, for example, the same temperature. So with temperature can be a bit different. It can be 20 degrees and a half. So the first number is called integer, and the second number is called float. Float comes from the floating point, which can be here or here, and it can change inside the number. So that's why these numbers are floating points. There are several rules when you print those numbers, and there are several operations that you can apply in order to change them. So removing all the comments, I will see like usual 2, 205. Here's an interesting fact. So in case you will add integer number, which is 2 plus 0, but you will add a dot, the result will be still a float number. So it will be 2.0. And in case you want to make it back to integer, you can use a special function inside print, and you will have here 2. This is not that critical in Python like in other languages like C, but still it's very important to understand that numbers may change. And here is another example. When we make integer 1.1, it will have 1. And it doesn't matter in case we'll have here 1.99, which in case you will round will be equal almost to 2. Still, integer function makes the bigger number possible, which is possible. If you want to use round, here you have 2. So print -1 gives -1, 2.1. You can also use simple expressions inside print functions. 1 plus 2 minus 4. All numbers are integer and result is integer. 3 divided by 2 is not an integer number, so it's 1.5. But 3 and you have 2 times divided by 2 is an integer. And you have the result here, it's equals to 1. Let me just comment some part of the print so it will be easier. This hashtag symbol gets 1 line. You can put as many as you want. All the rest after the first hashtag will be commented. So as in math, all the operations can be performed with the numbers. So 4 times 5 is 20. If you use 2 times this symbol, multiplication symbol, you will have 2 in power of the next symbol. So it's 2 in power of 8 is 206. And a very famous number, 2 in power of 10 is 1024. A very mathematical expression. So here we can see this strange number. It comes from these operations. So several times we multiplied first, then we added, then we divided by 3, and then it gives us this long expression. The same goes here. So you can see that in case we haven't used brackets inside for this number, so we will multiply 01 by 2 divided by 3 and then add this result to this part, which you can see here. We can also make a power inside unusual numbers, and something that you will have during the homework in case you would like to find out the remainder of a division. So for example, 5 divided by 3 will give us 1.66 and so on until the last symbol will be rounded to 7. But in case you will use this number, it will give us 2. In case you will use this percent symbol. What it stands for is something where we will have 5, which will be equal to 1 plus 2. 1 times 3 plus 2. So it's a way to represent division which will end as a float in form of integer numbers. In case you will use here by 4, the result will be 1. So 1 times 4 plus 1 equals to this one. This is very useful in case you would like to convert number of seconds inside a minute, for example. So you have 350 seconds, and you have to understand how many minutes you have. So first you will divide by 60. And then you have 7.5 minutes. But this is not the answer that we usually would like to see. So this answer will be 7 minutes 30 seconds. So then you will have this operation. So you have to integer 350 by 60. And then you will add here another one, and you will do it like 350 percentage of 60. So we'll have 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Just in order to make it nicer, we can print, for example, something very common. Here I forgot comma. So 730, we still have two blanks, so in order to omit them, we will use separator, and separator is equals to nothing. So now we have 730. So this is an example that we can use as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 different operations. In case we will use negative numbers, the output will be similar to this one, 4 times e minus 8, so it means 10, 4 times 10 in minus 8 power. And Python, in order to save some space, will represent it like this. So different equations. And again, what kind of numbers we have. The first was is countable numbers, integers. Then we have floating numbers. We have strings, words. Lists are something that we will be using widely later. This is different formats, different data types connected together. And we also have booleans, which is either true or false. Technically, inside computer, we have only zeros and ones, but we are able to represent those zeros and ones in a format of images, in a format of videos, in a format of sounds. So, but still everything that we see inside a computer is just like enormous amount of zeros and ones. So to represent zero, we use true. To represent zero, we use false. So equals to 0. And to represent true, we use 1. So here's this part of the code will give us 3 examples. This one, 0 is not equal to 0. That is the question, and we say no, so this is false. False is equal to 0. Yes, this is true. True is equal to 1. Yes, this is true. Those part of the code are widely used inside condition. This is a part which we'll be using later during the next lessons, which are very important. Another part which is very important is variables. Every language has 3 main aspects. First of one is variables, second one is conditions, and we also have loops. So every language can represent anything in case those 3 parts are correct. So here is a variable, is my name, surname, email, age, my current temperature, which is right now probably something around this. And that's a true that I'm a coder. So you cannot put how much you're a coder. So if I would put something like 50%, this will not be correct. So for Boolean functions, we only have to use true or false. And here how we're printing variables. Why this part is that much important? Because variables may change during the program. But those functions with printing will be not changing. In case we will just hardly wire here something like my name. So no matter who is doing the code, who is giving the class right now, they will be still representing with this name. So in order to change one part of the code, you can have to just change it here. For example, we will still use something like this. So here is a mistake. Yeah. So inside, for example, a website where you can see different statistics, you logged into your account, and now everywhere where you have, instead of just usual name variable, you'll have your own name, which makes a lot of sense. So for example, you have this part here. Okay, here is another application of a variable. You can use many of them and you can create different sentences, one which based with another. What's also great that if you want to print something that we were using before, let me return to the cube function. equals upper. Yeah, here we have the side and everything like this. So let's change this code a bit with variables. And we can say that side equals to 7. And instead of this one, we will have side in the power of 3. And now, for example, if we change the value of a side, so side equals to 3, he will still have 7 meters. 7 times 7 equals to 27. Because we changed this part of variable, we haven't changed this one. So what we have to do here, we have to change the code a bit. This part will be again a usual string, a usual words. Here instead of 7, we will type side. So a bit more, complicated, but this part of the code will be more interactive. Side. So I made a small mistake here. And here, let's check whether I'm not mistaken with commas. Yeah, so we have it here. And for example, if we change side here, by the way, if you will be changing it here, it will not change anything because the variable side is taken from the last time. So for example, if we do side equals to 1, here you have the example. And then if you have something like side equals to side plus 3, you get equals to 4. So here we are. This is a lesson for today, and I hope that all this information will be important to you with all your next endeavors with Python and with this lesson homework. See you next time.